$1 now trades for about 1,450,000 rials. The official inflation rate sits at 42%. When money dies, regimes follow. You're in the right place. We're tracing how a currency spiral, a president admitting elite privilege and waste on TV, and a 200-year-old bazaar going dark are turning protests across 70-plus cities into a structural crisis. If the cash that pays the police won't buy food, what happens to the state's monopoly on force? Before we move on, please take a moment to subscribe to the channel and like the video. Two men stepped into the white stream of a water cannon during Ramadan and didn't move. The truck throttled, the jet hit, and they leaned in. Phones went up, voices rose, and within hours, the clip moved from a small square in western Iran to phones in Avaz, Kermanshah, Tabriz, and beyond. It wasn't their courage alone that traveled. It was the pause that followed. The truck idled, then backed away. The first 72 hours felt like a fuse burning through the country. Night prayers ended in courtyards lit by portable lamps because the grid flickered and failed after sundown. Rolling blackouts pushed iftar into stairwells and rooftops. Water queues formed before dawn, when pressure still held, and by noon, lines wrapped around municipal taps with plastic jugs clattering on asphalt. In Shiraz, bread sellers rationed flatbreads 2 per person. In Mashhad, people left food lines and walked together toward the main avenues. Chants started with complaints about outages and empty taps and turned into roots. One street at a time, then whole neighborhoods. No one posted a march time. People simply stayed together and kept walking. In earlier cycles, 2009, 2019, 2022, force restored order. But this time, armored vans arrived, formed a line, and held. Shields didn't surge. Batons stayed down longer than anyone expected. Why hesitate? Fuel mattered. So did supplies. Crews faced nights with no guaranteed refuel, and commanders watched inventories of tear gas and rubber rounds shrink faster than resupply. The old calculation, hit hard, ended fast, ran into a new reality of scarce basics and thinner pay. For decades, the state bought silence with cheap bread, cheap fuel, and steady power. That informal deal kept streets calm while politics stayed closed. But with reservoirs failing and prices jumping by the week, the value of the deal collapsed. A subsidy that still exists on paper doesn't help when taps run dry at iftar. A fuel price kept low by decree is meaningless when pumps limit liters and queues eat a day's work. Power discounts don't matter when neighborhoods sit in the dark 4 nights a week. On the ground, Tehran's eastern blocks dragged hoses across alleys to fill barrels from a single working spigot. Trucked water appeared at dawn, gone by mid-morning. Reservoirs that once fed the capital struggled. LAR's capacity sank into single digits, and pressure maps showed entire districts dry in the evening window. Building managers taped notices to elevator doors. Water shutoffs at 6 p.m. Plan ahead. In basements, storage tanks ran to slush. Crowds changed too. Students stood next to teachers carrying grade books like shields. Truckers left rigs in depot lots and marched with diesel-stained hands. Bazaar porters, the men who moved bales and crates for cash, joined in, chanting about survival. Bread, water, work, rather than reform. The linkage grew practical. No deliveries, no sales, no water, no home life, no power, no study. Then came signs of retreat. Riot units pulled back to conserve fuel, leaving intersections to civilians after midnight. Clips surfaced of officers peeling off shoulder patches before dispersal, choosing anonymity over a badge that might make them a target later. There were whispers of small groups stepping away entirely. Not dramatic mutiny, just absence when roll call came. Morale followed the math. A conscript's pay that once covered a week's staples couldn't buy the same bread and rice basket by month's end. Overtime bought half a tank. Families told young officers to come home if food ran out. When a baton swing doesn't ensure dinner, discipline thins. Fear broke on both sides of the barricade because both sides stared at the same empty pantry. What happened in one square became a method. Occupy after prayers. Hold the street, outlast the fuel gauge. City after city tried it, learning that patience and numbers could wear down engines. And with engines sputtering, leaders faced an admission they avoided for years, a confession that the economic line could not hold any longer. What happens when a leader says the quiet part out loud and every saver hears it at once? In January 2026, President Masoud Pezeshkian went on television and admitted mismanagement, waste, and elite privilege feeding while the public tightened belts. He named what people had been muttering in breadlines. It cut through the noise because it came from the top. The next morning, the math people ran in their heads turned into prices on street boards, and the rial stopped acting like money. States can write out scandals. They cannot write out confirmation of the exact fear that keeps shopkeepers awake at night. If you hold rials and the head of state signals that the system favors insiders and burns through cash, you reach for the exit. The whisper in queues, "Get dollars, get out," became a rush. On the street, the rate slid toward 1,450,000 rials per US dollar. That number wasn't a headline, it was a sentence. It told every vendor how to tag the next crate of rice and every parent how to calculate next week's groceries. Shops moved first. They swapped rial stickers for handwritten tags in dollars and euros. Some taped 2 numbers on the glass, one in greenbacks, one in rials that changed twice before lunch. Landlords called tenants and said renewals would be in hard currency only. Deposits switched to dollars. Late fees switched to dollars. The rial still paid wages, but it stopped anchoring anything people wanted to own. Here's how the wheels spun faster. Trust evaporated, so nobody wanted to hold rials an hour longer than necessary. Velocity rose. Paydays turned into same-day runs to currency dealers, gold shops, and grocers. Hoarding began, not out of greed, but survival. Cooking oil, detergent, insulin, brake pads, things that hold value or keep life going, became savings accounts. The last buyers of rials were the people who had no choice. Teachers, clerks, truckers, cops, and conscripts whose salaries hit accounts in the same currency everyone else tried to dump. Then the bazaar went quiet. The Tehran Grand Bazaar, the 2-century engine that once bankrolled a revolution, didn't call a protest day. It shut and stayed shut. Gates down, lights off, not a banner in sight, just a message merchants only send when they expect a stampede of capital out the door. Buyers could come with rials, but sellers wouldn't open to take them. The signal traveled through trade networks into Isfahan, Tabriz, Mashhad, park capital, hold stock, wait for a rate that makes sense. Cross-class lines blurred. Conservative wholesalers who had declined past strikes now met in back rooms with striking teachers and truckers. They agreed on one thing: the state could not be trusted to keep money stable. Clerical figures with ties to merchant guilds advised distance without drama. No public break, just a drift that carried donors and influence away from ministries and toward their own ledgers. Security lost its edge in the same wave. If your overtime gets paid in a currency that loses value by the week, extra shifts buy nothing. Fleet managers delayed maintenance because spare parts were priced in dollars. Fuel rationing shaved hours off patrols. Radios stayed on, but response time stretched. A uniform still carried risk. The paycheck no longer covered it.